What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat Motaro. And so here we have the Storm Collectibles Motaro posed and out of the packaging. Before we take a look at the figure, let's actually run through what he comes with. Motaro does come with two different head sculpts. We do get the stern expression that he has on him right now. Then we get a yelling expression, which does look really nice. We also get a pair of fists. We get a pair of clinching hands. Then we get a pair of style pose hands. And then we also get an energy blast effect, which looks really nice. I do like that. Finally, we do get a fully articulated skeleton, and this skeleton has quite a bit of articulation. I really do like it. It's the exact same skeleton that we got with the Axe Battler 2-pack. So if you haven't checked out that review, check it out right here. The skeleton also comes with his own batch of accessories. He comes with 5 pairs of hands, starting with a pair of fists. We get a pair of grip hands. We get a pair of trigger finger hands. We get a pair of style pose hands. And then we get a pair of relaxed grip hands. All of that comes with Motaro, and I am really impressed that he did get a fully articulated skeleton. That is insane. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually move on to his details. And so here we have a closer look at Motaro, and I really do like the way Storm Collectibles made this figure. I'm just going to say this right off the bat. I'm not a fan of his stoic face. I don't know what it is about this particular version of his head. It just doesn't strike me as Motaro. It doesn't have that same appeal that it did in the video game. It looks kind of strange, almost too human-like. In the video game, he didn't look too much like a human. He looked kind of monstrous, which I think I prefer his yelling head. I think this looks so much better than this head. I think it's just that this face is so elongated. I know he's a satyr, but that doesn't mean you have to give him a long face. One thing I really do like are the horns on Motaro. They are done exceptionally well. As you can see, they have a lot of nice detail even in the segments going throughout them. We have the segments, and then you see the line work in those segments, so that looks really cool. Again, not a fan of this particular face sculpt, but it is pretty good. The coloration on it looks really nice, and I think another thing that's throwing me off are the ears. I don't know what it is about the face, but it's throwing me off just a little bit. But yeah, the head sculpt is done really well. He even has a little mohawk right here. That looks really good. I do like the way he came out overall. So having a look at his body, he is essentially half of a regular Storm Collectibles figure, and then the other half is something entirely new. His torso is something we have seen in the past, the way it's constructed. We have a ball joint running from his head into the deep recess of his chest, and that's going to provide all the articulation here in his neck. And then that does go into 2 cups into his shoulders, which he has really massive shoulders. Just look at that. He's a really beefy dude. Really do like that. And even his back is pretty broad. He's not as broad as Goro, but he is still bigger than most of your Storm Collectible figures, so I really do appreciate that. So again, from his head down to his waist, he's pretty much something we have seen in the past, so that is pretty good. One thing I do like is that he has these elbow spikes, which I always thought were really gnarly on Motaro. And then you can see I have him with the fists. And as you can see, he does only have 4 fingers. We have the thumb and then the 3 digits. I never realized that when playing the game. I always assumed he had a human hand, which I guess that's also what's throwing me off, that he has such human facial features, but everything else about him feels monstrous. And that is throwing me off just a little bit. I really do like the coloration on Motaro here. They did a really good job with his chest being a lighter color than the rest of his body. Although I feel like it's a little bit too heavy here on the back. I think the back should have been a little bit darker, almost like his arms. His arms are probably the best example I can point out. We have the darker shade back here. I think that's how it should have been on Motaro's back. So having a look at the torso, you can see he still has a belly button right here, and he just looks really nice, and I really do like the way he came out. So moving on to something completely and entirely different is his lower half. We do have horse legs, which I think this is done exceptionally well. Storm Collectibles did a really good job differentiating the two colors right here, and I do like the fact that they are sculpted lines. You don't have just painted detailing right here to separate the two. It's textured differently, so his mane, I guess I can call this a mane, is actually textured and rougher than his coat right here, and you can still see the musculature in his legs here. I want to say horse legs. They're not really horse legs, but they are inspired by horse legs. Just like with his elbows, we do have a dew claw right here, just protrudes out behind his hoof. His hooves are all done really nicely. I do like the paint work on it. It's very clean, although consistency is a little bit off on both. When we can see his right hoof does go up a little further than his left hoof. And I think that's the only hoof that is painted differently. It's just this right hoof that got a little too much paint versus the other ones. And something to note is where his body connects to his horse body. He does have this really nice silver piece going from the back of him all the way down, and it continues throughout his body. And that's one little detail that they didn't have to include, but Storm Collectibles did, and I really like the texturing on it. It's so unique, so different from everything else on his body, that we get this really nice contrast of textures and detail. And even his hind legs are very have very muscular legs, and you can see some veins sculpted on them. The paintwork is just beautiful. Ooh, just the way his leg bends like this. We have another claw back here. Don't want to get clawed by that. If he kicks you, I don't know what I'd be more worried about, getting kicked by his massive hoof or possibly getting impaled by his little dew claws right there. But yeah, Motaro does look really nice. And one final thing about Motaro is that he does get this really nice segmented tail. I just love the way it looks. It's cast in, I think, silver plastic, and then it's painted with a brighter, shinier silver, and then it's given a dry brushing at the very tips right here, and it does a very good job of bringing out the detailing throughout his tail. Oh, that's just such a beautiful tail. Just look at how it just goes into the dark spots, and then we have his little, I don't think it's hair, I think it's a spike. I think he has a spike at the end of his tail. I know he only uses it for tripping in Mortal Kombat 3, so I don't think that that's a hair. I honestly want to say that's a spike. So overall, Motaro here has a lot of great detailing, and as you would expect from Storm Collectibles, he still has some pretty good articulation, although be it some of it is a little bit tricky just because the fact he's a satyr and he doesn't have regular human proportions, but that's not a knock against the figure. I think having a diverse cast of Mortal Kombat characters is the way to go. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually move on to some comparisons between Motaro and other figures you may have in your collection. And so here we have Motaro posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Motaro posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure in a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Motaro posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. Here we have Motaro posed next to a Mortal Kombat 3 Storm Collectibles Sub-Zero and a Storm Collectibles Scorpion. Here we have Motaro posed next to a Mortal Kombat Storm Collectibles Shao Kahn. And finally, here we do have Motaro posed next to a Storm Collectibles Goro. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually move on to Motaro's articulation. He does have a ball joint here at the head, so he does move around really nicely. We do get some up and down movement, so that does work really good. We do get some really nice head tilt out of Motaro, so we get all the range you would expect, and of course he does turn left and right. His arms are on ball joints going into the torso, so they do have a forward and back pivot. They can pivot up and down, so we get some really nice range there. They do hinge out, and you can hinge them to about right there, so they do go all the way horizontal and beyond, so really do like that. He does have a bicep swivel, which works no problem. We do get double jointed elbows, which goes a little past 90 degrees. He is pretty bulky, so you don't get too much past 90, so that's okay. He has a ball hinge here at the wrist, so he has up and down movement. We can rotate that to have in and out movement, and of course it rotates on that pin. He does have a double ball joint here at the torso, so he can lean back quite a bit. Although if you lean him back too far, you do kind of expose his inner working, so you want to be aware of how you're posing him. That and moving his torso around, you can see it moves his neck around as well, so do be careful about that. So besides some backwards movement, he gets some really impressive forward crunching, but just like before, we do get some pretty serious gapping, so do be aware of how you're posing him, and be aware that his torso might catch on itself, so you do want to be careful about that. We do have rotation up here, and there's a lot of squeaking on him. It's not bad squeaking, it's actually really good squeaking. It means all the joints are solid. It does pivot side to side really nicely. Then we have another ball joint here, so he can crunch a little bit further. Arches back. Not too much side to side movement, but we do have rotation. So all that is normal on a Storm Collectibles figure. So here is where he has some pretty interesting bits of articulation. It is a ball joint that connects his horse legs to his body, so we do have some outwards movement. We have some in and out movement, so that works fine. We can move the leg to about right there before it starts hitting up against itself in the sculpt. His leg does bend about that far forward. I wish it bent a little bit further just to get him in more dynamic posing. He does have a bend right here, so that works fine. And then we have a forward bend right here at his ankle. Yeah, that would be his ankle. And then we do have rotation, so we have a hinge here, hinge there, and then a hinge back here. His hind legs, we do have another ball joint, so those do move in and out. As you can see, they do kick back to about there, kick forward to about there. We do have a knee joint, but it doesn't really move too much, so it just mainly goes from there to there. Then we have another hinge right here that goes back to about there, goes forward more than it goes back, and then we have another hinge right here at what would be his ankle, I think, but it doesn't get too much movement, so that is a little bit of a shame. And then we do have rotation at the hoof. Then we do have some rotation here at the tail, and then we have a really nice bendy wire here in the tail. Now, if I'm right, it starts right about here, because it doesn't bend anywhere here, so most of the bending starts right about here, and it does bend really nicely. It's a really nice strong wireframe, and I really do like the fact that Storm did add that. So overall, Motaro here has a lot of articulation, and it's very unique, very good in my honest opinion. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get him posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And here we have the Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat Motaro pose for my final thoughts, and overall Storm Collectibles has done an amazing job with this figure. I do feel like he could have a little bit more articulation in his hind legs and maybe his front legs, just to get him in that more iconic Motaro pose that I try to get him in. It's just that his front legs don't have the range that you need to actually bend them as they should, but that's not taking away anything from this figure. This is still a very impressive figure. He poses very nicely, and I think Storm Collectibles has done just an amazing job with this figure. The amount of detailing on him is great, from the textural differences in his hind legs, or in his lower half. You can see the rough patches of fur, and then the smoother patches look really nice. The silver on him is done exceptionally beautiful. The heads on him look really impressive, and the accessories he comes with are just very well done, especially a bloody skeleton, which we get a fully articulated bloody skeleton, which is something I didn't expect. I knew they were going to give us a skeleton, I just wasn't expecting it to have any articulation. I thought it was just going to be static, but I am really happy that Storm Collectibles gave us an articulated bloody skeleton with Motaro here. Now, if you are looking for Motaro, he is still available on sites like Amazon, Big Bad Toy Store, and Entertainment Earth. He will run you $104, which I honestly feel that is a very justifiable price, seeing as how he is a very massive figure. He dwarfs all other 6-inch figures, and even the Storm collectible figures, he's very big, he's long, he has a lot of nice detailing in the wireframe in his tail. So the $104 price tag, I think, is well justified with this figure. If you can pick up Motaro right now, I really recommend you do. If not, you can hold off on him for a little bit, but I don't recommend holding off too much on Storm collectible figures, seeing as how they do skyrocket in value as soon as they go out of print. So the moment you can get hold of a Motaro, I really recommend you do, especially if you're a fan of Mortal Kombat 3, or just want a really awesome satyr in your collection. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and check out all my other action figure reviews, as well as all my other Mortal Kombat videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it's in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.